Hey, everybody, what is going on? Welcome to the Roto Grinders Lineup Builder Show for DraftKings. I'm Eric Crane, and I'm joined by a couple of my friends. We got Big T, Tony Niaz. What's going on, man?
What's going on? I'm looking forward to hearing about some Detroit Lions receivers again today. Maybe we can hit it right this week.
I don't think so, because I haven't hit it right any week yet.
Are you back on the train?
I don't know. Probably. And I'm just so invested at this point.
I mean, the coach probably is anticipating getting him the ball a little bit this week.
I think I heard that last week. Chop, man, you're going to talk some sense into me, right?
This is the week, man. You gotta double down. You gotta do it. It's like putting your money on black on the roulette wheel. I mean, at some point it's going to hit. Just keep on doubling down, man.
Yeah, I mean, it can't keep coming up red, right? That's what
I mean, come on. What's the odds?
I don't know, but it's really getting expensive chasing this. The martingale system of Golden Tate is not working out so well. So, guys, we're going to build a bunch of lineups here, and let's just touch on what you guys think of the slate overall, Tony. What do you think?
I mean, football's so nice every week that there's just so many options and so many low-owned guys that it's just great for tournaments. And there's just so many ways to go that you never have to worry about somebody having your same team. I mean, I guess you would if you went super chalky, but us three are never going to have that problem.
And, of course, Chop, what are you thinking of this slate?
I think it's cool. It's a lot different than what we've seen these last maybe up until this point in the season. There's not as much like super easy value out there this week. You gotta look a little bit harder for that value.
Golden Tate's a value, isn't he?
We're gonna keep that on the down low so we can just load up on him and have them all to ourselves.
Wait, how cheap is Golden Tate? Now you've got me interested. Well, I'm just gonna scroll down here. I don't know of his actual price.
You might have to scroll for a minute.
Oh, there he is. $4,400 for Golden Tate.
Ooh, that's a bargain.
That's not very much to pay for his 30 points.
Third on the season?
No, I don't think he has 30 this season.
No.
I think that's.
Does he have 30 yards yet?
I mean, do we count the 2-point conversion? He got in the end zone. He did get in the end zone. Oh, this is just miserable. We went, Tony, you and I went from doing a baseball show where we got to find every good play except for Christian Friedrichsen, and now we're just talking about Golden Tate every week, man. This is oh boy, I love it. What do you say we go and fire up the screen share and talk about what we want to do at quarterback this week? Because again, we got a lot of options this week. We can go cheap with Brian Hoyer. We can pay it for Drew Brees. Chop, what are you doing at quarterback?
I'm all over the place, man. I just, I mean, honestly, at this point on a Friday, I haven't narrowed my search down to 3 or 4 guys yet. I'm pretty much still all over the board. But, like, you can't help but to look at that Carolina game and love both of those quarterbacks in that game. So that's the first place I think I'm starting with my research.
Are you afraid, Tony, at all about Cam Newton kind of coming back from that concussion issue?
I'm still not 100% sure he's going to play. Early in the week, I was pretty much guaranteed he was, but you got that line dipping down to 2.5. There's still a little uncertainty. I mean, I still think it's like 85, 90%, but I'm hoping he was relatively high owned on Thursday's slates because I didn't own him at all. And I hope he doesn't play somehow because I'm not going to have any shares this weekend either.
Well, if he doesn't play this week, I'm just going to have so much Derek Anderson. It's going to, blow everybody's mind. On the other side, we know Drew Brees is way safer. Chop, is he kind of your big cash game guy this week?
Yeah, I think right now, from everything, it looks like he's got to be in cash games, your number one ranked guy. It would be Cam Newton if there wasn't the concussion issue there. But since you take him out of the equation, Brees is like number one for safety and floor and all those good things you look for. And plus, he has a huge upside at home in a game like this. So, yeah, for cash games, he's the first guy you should be looking at.
Now, Tony, he's going to be popular, especially playing at home. Everybody knows fade him on the road, play him at home. I mean, do you think he's going to be too popular for you, Tony?
This is what I love about football starting out. Everyone loves playing different quarterbacks. Everyone has their guy they like playing. So Brees just isn't going to be high enough to where I'm even worried about it. Like, he's in such a good spot. He's got at least like a 2-touchdown floor in my eyes. He could throw 4 or 5 anytime at home. I'm going to have close to 100% Brees, and I'll just go way above the field and take my chances.
Well, one of the nice things, if you want to go 100% Brees, I mean, you don't necessarily have to pair him with a wide receiver. He's one of these guys that spreads it out so much that, yeah, you're going to want some Brandon Cooks. You're going to want some Michael Thomas, some Colby Fleener. Maybe not Colby Fleener. But you're definitely going to want some of them, but you don't have to pair him with a wideout, right, Chop?
No, you don't have to, especially if you're working that cash game. But we're in a tournament here, trying to build lineups for tournaments, so I don't mind running this lineup builder several times and locking him in with a different wide receiver each time for like a certain number of entries, 10 entries with Snead, 10 entries with Cooks or whatever. But yeah, Brees is he's that guy, man. I like this play a lot this week.
So, okay, let's just pretend that we're not going to play Brees, and we are, but let's just pretend we're not going to. Look at Chubb. He's like, no, we can't do that. Tony, who are some other quarterbacks you're interested in this week?
I mean, I haven't even looked below Brees because I'm playing him on every team. So, no, I'm just kidding. Another guy I really like in tournaments, I really like Russell Wilson. He had the bye week. He's only 6,900 on DraftKings, I think. Yeah, 6,900, which
yep.
Oh, yeah, you got it on FanDuel. Okay, 6,900. Yeah, I mean, he's got to be a lot healthier. Atlanta had a big win on the road last week versus Denver. I'm still not sold completely on that team. Atlanta looks like they got they've been pretty bad against the pass, but I just like it. I think it's a really good spot. It's going to be like 5% owned. I like how you can pair him with Jimmy Graham or Baldwin or both even in a spot like this. And it's just a really good tournament spot in my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, when I look at Russell Wilson, he's definitely a great tournament option coming off a bye. And again, nobody's going to play him, I don't think, which is going to be which makes him a really great option. Who are some other guys for you, Chop, that you're looking at quarterback?
Well, it's a shame that Drew Brees is like so easy to play this week, because if it wasn't for that guy right there, I would be so all in on Ben Roethlisberger, because you're going to get arguably the best quarterback in football right now, in the best situation. You're probably going to get him for 5 or 10%, even coming off of these monster games, because everybody's so scared of those home road splits, and I think against a secondary as bad as Miami, I'd throw that out the window. He's going to carve up the secondary. But, I mean, like I said, you got Drew Brees there, so it kind of draws away from that, which is another reason why Ben is going to be low owned too, because people are going to be flocking to Cam and Drew. But Ben jumps off the charts to me as a great tournament play this week, because nobody's going to be on the guy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because, Tony, you were talking earlier about all this ownership keeps getting spread out. I think most of it's going to funnel to Brees, but you look at Wilson, you look at Ben. I mean, that just means that all those guys are going to be pretty under-owned.
I think everybody, if Cam plays, I think he'll be super high and Breeze will be super high. But even by super high, I mean, what are we saying? 25 to 30% tops, right?
I think that might even be a little bit high.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's just so weird to me in football, like coming from basketball, which is my best sport, where guys can be like 80% owned. It's just, it always feels like a discount to me, put it that way. Like, even if you're in a tournament and Breeze is 25%, like, that just feels so way too low. I don't know. It's just hard for me to play other guys, put it that way. If I know he's only going to be 25%, I don't really see the value.
Yeah, and if we're looking down here, I mean, I know Alex Smith is getting a little bit of love this week.
Please tell me you guys don't like Alex Smith.
I'm not on. I don't think you can win a tournament with Alex Smith. What do you think, Chop?
You know, I mean, you could, and if it felt right for you, he has a game every once in a while where maybe once or twice a year, maybe where he does well. You know, I looked at him. I didn't quite have the heart to completely X him out of my list, but he was on that fringe, man. He was about to get X'd out. But then I looked at the matchup, you know, is pretty decent. And I thought, well, maybe I'll play him on a couple of teams out of 100 or something like that. So I'll keep him on my list, but he's borderline. But he's getting a lot of love this weekend. I don't see it, you know, so I'll probably pass on him for the most part.
Yeah, and another guy getting a lot of love in that same price range, Brian Hoyer. He's a guy who some people like. Again, I'm probably not going to be on him. What do you think, Tony?
I'm not going to be on him. Like, I just have such a hard time like visualizing Breeze in that good of a matchup versus a terrible Carolina defense. I just don't see how a guy like Hoyer or Alex Smith can beat him. I know the price is cheaper, so it's not like you're necessarily battling one-on-one, but I can just find value guys by Sunday. There's going to be value open up. There's already some value, especially on DraftKings where you can get some cheap guys. I just don't like these cheap. I mean, Jacksonville is better against the pass than the run, I think, at least. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't like those cheap guys. If anything, I'm going to go to a guy like Big Ben or Russell Wilson, or I'm just staying up top today or this week. I think that's where most of the upside is in my mind.
I will say I do have a little bit of interest, and might sound crazy. I have a little bit of interest in Andy Dalton this week against the Pats. I mean, the Pats, they've been below average against the pass, and they haven't really faced – I mean, Carson Palmer's the best quarterback they've faced all year. I think, Andy Dalton, your Cincinnati boy there, Tony, might go off. Any interest in –
so bad, though. Like, it's painful. As a Bengals fan, like, it's tough to watch. They got embarrassed again last week.
I'm just saying, though, they're like, no team has thrown less than 38 passes against the Pats this year. We know Dalton, he's averaging 300 yards a game, even though he's been terrible. Hasn't found the end zone but 5 times. So that, I mean, there's going to be some positive regression there. Chop, everything I'm saying makes sense, right?
Well, it makes sense, but unfortunately, like for the same reason that Tony just said with the other guys, I looked at Andy Dalton and I thought, like, what's the benefit here of playing Dalton? If I want to go cheap, if I really want to go cheap, there's other guys I could go cheap with that I like a little bit better. But I don't see the need to play a guy like Dalton this week when there's so much goodness up at the top of the salaries. And there's not that, you know, those quarterbacks, the thing is on DraftKings, your quarterbacks aren't separated by that much salary. Since they capped it up there up top, you're not really gaining a ton of by going down to Dalton. So, yeah, I kind of looked at it, and then I thought, well, Patriots are great at taking away the number one weapon. So what if they take away A.J. Green? Then what's Dalton going to do? Well, he's in trouble then.
Team Gio.
That's why I like Gio this week, but I'll pass on just Dalton trying to pepper like Brandon LaFell again, and I don't believe in all that. I don't believe it's going to pay off for him.
I'm definitely going to be on some LaFell and some Gio. I'm even going to have some A.J. Green. The Patriots' tallest quarterback is 5'11". A.J. Green's going to eat this week.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I was doing a show with Eric Crane and not Britt Devine over here, man, trying to – Golly,
I mean, you have
a quarterback on him 5'11", but what about the other two guys? What about 3 5'11" guys that are going to be on him?
AJ, he's just gonna reach up like Mike Evans and catch the ball like this. Ain't gonna be no thing. He's gonna be like Tony's size, just catching balls. Tony's way up there. He's like 7 feet tall. It's unbelievable. It's really intimidating, to be honest. All right, let's move over to running back. And Tony, I know who you're gonna say you like at running back this week. So here, let me just wait. We forgot to lock in Drew Brees. Let's go ahead and go over here. What's up, Drew?
Are we locking? I thought you said we weren't allowed. I like that move.
We can lock in Drew.
I'm excited
As
again
safe
now.
as they come with a massive upside. I mean, why not just lock him in? Chop. Are you good with locking him in?
Yeah, I was just while y'all were talking, I was just thinking how I'm going to lock Breeze into like 50 teams here in a little bit when I get off of this show.
Let's go ahead and do it, man. Let's go ahead and lock old Drew in, and that'll be simple enough. Moving on to running back, though. I mean, you both just love Le'Veon Bell this week, don't you?
I'd be worried about someone if they didn't love him. I mean, what could you possibly say about him that you don't like? It's the exact same point I made last week, though, and people weren't necessarily on it last week, but it's like he's over $2K cheaper than Antonio Brown, and they're the same player. Like, I don't see how you could play Brown. I mean, you can play them both anytime, but how could you play Brown over Bell? Even though it's a different position, you have a flex spot on DraftKings, so I don't get how people could play Brown over Bell for the 2K difference.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, too. I mean, Chop, are you able to find a way to fade Le'Veon Bell this week?
No, I don't think there's any reason to. I mean, he's way cheap. He's not that hard to make teams this week. There's no reason to fade Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, too. I mean, Miami, they can't stop anybody. They can't stop him through the air either, but, you know, at the same
time. He got 11 targets as a running back, like, on top of he's just got so much up. He hasn't even scored yet, and he's gone for 20 both weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a little uncomfortable just locking in two guys right away, especially in NFL where, you know.
We're doing pretty good if we lock in Breeze and Bell, though. I don't think we can hurt people there. What
do you think, Chop? Can we actually lock in two guys here?
Yeah, you could lock in whatever you want, man.
We're just building one team. We're gonna lock in 9 guys.
Let's lock in 8 guys and then let the flex spot just have at it. Let the optimizer have at it.
Are we making the cash? Is this a cash game show or a GPP show?
It's a GPP show, but man, I mean, look, I know they're both going to be popular, but I just need a way to fade them at that price. I
guarantee I'm going to have them both on almost every team, so we'll differentiate somewhere. It ain't going to be here.
All right, so Chop, you mentioned liking Gio this week. Who are some other running backs that are that maybe we can put in a lot of our teams that, you know, maybe are a little bit off the beaten path?
And there's a lot of run. This is different than the last few weeks where you had a hard time narrowing your wide receivers down because there was so much good value out there. Well, these running backs are studs this week. I like a lot of these guys. Like in the higher price range, LaShawn McCoy, great player, great matchup. Jordan Howard, his price is rising, but like you guys said, the reason why you don't like Hoyer this week, because maybe they can run a little bit on Jacksonville, Jordan Howard's going to get fed this week, and I actually like Chicago to play from in front this game with a lead and to pound him a lot more than where Hoyer gets all his garbage time stats. So I like Jordan Howard this week. You can creep down. I don't mind a team where you have Drew Brees and Mark Ingram locked in together because then you're going to get all the New Orleans points. Not to mention you may just double hit them because Mark Ingram's so good out of the backfield catching the ball in a potential shootout. And we just saw Jacquizz Rodgers go for over 100 yards on this Carolina defense. I think they're a little bit overrated, to be honest with you. So yeah, there's a lot of guys there. You can even drift down in the lower price range. Let me pull some guys up here. I don't know I don't want to mess with that one right there.
Wait, who do you not want to mess with? I want to hear who you're looking at.
I was going to say the Raiders backfield. I want to see how the injuries play out because if Murray is out again, I wouldn't mind going on one, maybe splitting a little action between those other two guys because one of them is going to have a good game this week. And it may be just be Jalen Richard when everybody else is thinking it's DeAndre Washington. Richard looks like the better back, to be honest with you. But I'll pass on that one. And then you got the big elephant in the room this week, which is Jamal Charles. Severely underpriced, a great matchup. Will he get the full workload? Because if he does, he's a great, great play this week. But that's what you're wondering is how much of a workload he's going to get. But he's the big one you have to worry about.
Yeah, and he's 5,100. I was really hoping to get some more clarity as the week goes on. We haven't had it yet. If anything, it's actually muddled the situation even more, which is really annoying. I mean, Andy Reid, come on, help us out a little bit here. By the way, did you guys see that the Ken Bone thing? Who he showed up at the presidential election? Guy looks exactly like Andy Reid. It's amazing. So, all right. Oh, yeah, if you look at the Andy Reid next to the Kool-Aid Man, next to Ken Bone in the red sweater, it's all the same person. It's unbelievable. All right, so we got Jamal Charles 5,100 that we like. We got some Mark Ingram, by the way, people were hating on him earlier in the year. 13 targets the last 2 games. I like him. Tony, where are you going at running back? Who are some guys that you're interested in?
Just a side note, too, one of my absolute favorite tournament builds, I don't completely hate it for cash games either. Just like last week where I played 4 Pittsburgh guys, I don't hate the idea of Breeze, Ingram, and one of those receivers. So three this week, I think, maybe like Cooks or any of the receivers, just because it's going to be a different build with chalky-type guys. So I really like the idea of that. Even though it's been known in the past as negative correlation, I think with a total this much higher than other games, I think it might actually be positive correlation in this case when you factor in the ownership. So
when this game is 10-13, we're all going to lose so much money.
Is that even possible, though?
I don't think so.
It is going to happen one of these weeks, though, because this year's been super chalky so far.
It already happened. Remember when the Saints went up to the Giants and everybody was all in on Odell and all in on the Saints passing game? It happened that
on
week.
The road. Yeah.
Yep. But I'm not so sure it can happen in the Superdome. I don't think
it happening.
I saw a great blurb by Evan Solo this morning. He was talking about the Carolina starting secondary. All 3 guys they started with this year, none of them are playing this week.
Yeah, it's bad, man. Like their defense is way worse than I think people realize, and people realize they're bad, but I don't think they might be the worst defense in football. Like I really believe that.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. So, all right, we like some Ingram mentioned. We like some Jordan Howard. Let's go ahead and put some percentages with these guys. Let's go.
Who do you guys not like up top is the better question. Like, there's so many good plays up in that top range. Like, DeMarco's a great play. I like Zeke a lot this week. Shady's a great play. Michael's a great play. I'm never going to like Gurley, so, I mean, we can X him out. But besides him, every other one of those guys is a great play. I mean, am I wrong?
No, I mean, I don't even hate Gurley, even though there's Benny Cunningham's back, which is a thing apparently. But Ezekiel Elliott has kind of turned into a sneaky option for me too, where I wasn't necessarily on him, and I sort of got talked into him yesterday. Which
did you see the teams that Green Bay's played so far this year? Like they haven't faced a running back yet.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. Like that Green Bay they haven't played anybody good, and now all of a sudden they got to deal with Zeke and that offensive line. What do you think of Zeke, Chop?
I think he makes a great play because everybody who just looks at the numbers are going to look at that Green Bay rushing defense, and they're going to avoid arguably a top 3 running back right now in the NFL already through 5 games. Like they're going to avoid him because Green Bay's so good against the run on the paper. But like you just said, the numbers are a little bit skewed. It's so early in the season. The competition's not been there for him. This guy's a different beast. I'll say this about Ezekiel Elliott, man. Like he came into the season game 1. It's been a slow buildup for him because he came in out of shape and overweight because he pulled his hamstring in camp. We're just now starting to get into peak Ezekiel Elliott. He's still not in 100% shape, and the line is still a little bit beat up. They're going to get healthier in the line, even though they're still very good. Like this guy's this is going to be a tough challenge for Green Bay. And I think that if you can get this kind of a guy on the arc that he's on, and you get him at like 5% this week, which I think is going to be super low.
I bet it's under 5%.
There you go. Then how is this guy not like a super, super lock and load in your tournament teams? I'm not saying we lock him in here, but just use it.
We've locked in everybody else. I mean, we might as well lock him in. We're only building one team today. Lineup builder. We don't need no stinking lineup.
I will say this, though, with tournaments, every week I say it. I mean, you guys know me. Le'Veon Bell is by far my favorite DFS player. But if you're ever going to fade him, this is the week because running back is just absurd good at the top this week. Like, obviously he's a great play. I'm not saying he's not. He could have 2 touchdowns. He probably will. But if you're ever going to fade him, this is the week.
All right, so let's put some percentages on this, guys. I mean, Zeke, I feel like we can have 15%. We're going to be so far over the field. I mean, is that enough for you guys, or are you guys wanting more?
I wouldn't mind a little more.
All right, 18% it is. We'll give you a little more.
I just like Zeke the most, I think, for tournaments because Shady's going to be probably the second most popular behind Le'Veon, I would think. And it's just a great pivot up 100 to Zeke. Zeke's going to be so low. You guys are right. And it's just, that offensive line is just going to dominate Green Bay.
Well, and you look at Christine Michael too. I mean, this is a guy we haven't talked about in 2.5 weeks. I mean, they had their bye, then they had their game against the Jets where nobody talked about them, and rightfully so. The Jets are a good run defense. Then they had the bye. You know, you mentioned Russ Wilson. I think Christine Michael's a great play for the same reason. Excellent spot this week. 6.8K. Nobody's going to play him because everybody's going to play McCoy for $100 more. Chop, can you get behind Christine Michael?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that puts him on the back burner in my head is that there's all these other guys too. Like if this were a regular week, he'd be at the top of my list. I like him a lot this week in this matchup at home. But man, I mean, I like him. It's hard to sit here and think about playing him over these other like 6 or 7 really. I mean, we haven't even talked about DeMarco Murray, who's been the best running back in football so far. So I mean, it's just this week is stacked with running backs.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. We've got Le'Veon Bell here, and we locked him in early. We love him. Maybe we should reconsider locking him in. I mean, we got all these other guys we like.
I think it makes for a better roster builder show to just fade him. Like even click the X button and put in these other guys. I mean,
and now you got to click the X button. That's
I think with Le'Veon, seriously, you need to click the lock or the X. He's one of those guys this week, in my mind.
What if we click the 75 button? We'll still be over the field.
I mean, you can. I just really don't see the value in it.
I'm clicking the 75, but what do you think, Chop?
Yeah, man. I would say I would have a hard time like having no Le'Veon Bell. So I'd rather have all the Le'Veon Bell and then put him with spread him out with Murray and Elliott and hope one of those guys goes off. Then you got the best combination of running backs on your team and that propels you to a high tournament cash. I would rather have all the money. Yeah.
All right. Hopefully. Let's give us all. Okay, fine. You know what? We're back.
Yeah, back to the law. I mean, it's hard to argue against it because he's so clearly the best play of the week. I mean, so it's just strictly game theory to even talk about fading him.
Yeah. You don't fade him because you don't think he's. Well, I bet he gets shut down 20 carries, 30 yards, and 3 fumbles. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. But all right. So what do we do with these other guys? Because again, there are so many guys we like here. I mean, Jordan Howard, I think, is going to go under him too. Mark Ingram, Lamar Miller. We haven't even touched on him. This is supposed to be the week that Lamar Miller breaks out. Chop, are you on Lamar at all?
Sure, I think he's right there. I mean, he's right there in that upper class. I'll call it the upper. I think it's about a half dozen guys there that are just really, really solid plays. Okay, it's hard to tell them apart. You know, it's hard. I can make a case for Miller, just like I can make a case for all the other guys we've talked about, and except for probably Todd Gurley right now. That's about the only one I really X out of that class. But once you get to like the Mark Ingram level, Mark Ingram and up, you can't really go wrong. One of those guys is going to explode along with Le'Veon Bell, and you're going to have the nut running back combination.
So are you wanting to X out Todd Gurley too?
For most weeks, I'd say leave him in because you never know. But in this week, yeah, I just don't see how you play any Todd Gurley at all. I mean, that's a tough matchup. I mean, his offensive line is just terrible. With all these other guys, this is the week I'd definitely X him out.
All right, I X'd him out. See you, Todd. Now, do you just kind of want to do, like, Tony, we did the baseball show. We just do 25% catcher sometimes. Like, is that what you're wanting to do here? Maybe 30% of these guys?
I couldn't agree more with Chop. Like, I agree with everything he said. Like, I look at them all almost dead equal. Like, I feel like any of those guys could end up being the highest, but I think I can't see any of them busting. They're all in great spots. So I like the idea of 30% or whatever in there across the board.
We'll just do 33 because it's easier to type 3-3 than it is 3-0. How's that look? What do you think, Chop? Does that work for you? Lock in Le'Veon, get 33% of all these other guys?
Yeah, it works. This is the week where I would make a hard cut at like Mark Ingram, and below Mark Ingram probably wouldn't touch. Like they can have all these Theo Riddicks this week and all these. I don't believe Devontae Freeman. They can have all those guys. I'll take this upper tier right here and just load up on them.
What about our boy Gio? We gotta get some Gio in there.
Give him a little courtesy 5%. I like him, but
courtesy 5. I bet you're gonna say
courtesy 5.
Oh, I like Gio way more than that.
I wrote the guy up, man. So I mean, I like him. It's just that you're on this thing where you're trying to build these lineups. You gotta, you're not gonna be able to fit everybody in there. We've gone through that before. So maybe you put him in there a little bit, and he ends up in the flex or something. So.
15. I'll do 15% Geo.
Whoa.
Is that too much for you, Tony?
No, I actually, if Jeremy Hill's for sure out, have we heard yet?
Nah, we haven't heard anything. There was an update here.
If he's out for sure, then yeah, I think 15's all right. The good thing about Gio on DraftKings is he is going to catch a decent amount of balls, so his floor is high. It's just so hard this week because if 2 or 3 of those top guys goes nuts, I think you're going to have 2 or 3 of them to have to win a tournament. Put it that way. I just think they're so. Another guy too that I'm super interested in. And Chop was talking about it. Those Oakland guys, everyone was talking about them last week. This week, everyone's going up top at running back. So this week, they're going to go ignore it. How many times do we see this? Seriously. There's a bunch of wind in this game too, but last week, everyone's talking about them, and they're the mega chalk. This week, everyone kind of forgets about them, and what happens every time in this spot? One of them just goes nuts.
And it says here Latavius missed practice. And look, I mean, the wind that's going on out there, that's no joke. It looks like it's going to be 20 to 25 with gusts up to 40. It's supposed to be raining too. I mean, I like David Carr as much as the next guy, but at the same time, I mean, Chop, what do you think here? Do we just sprinkle in a little DeAndre Washington, a little Jalen Richard?
Yeah, I think that weather out there, if that holds up, that really favors these guys, these running backs. You're not going to throw downfield. You're going to want to throw short. You're going to run a little bit extra. So, and like Tony said, it's all about you can almost throw numbers out the window most weeks in the NFL and just go by feel and, like history. And the history is that a lot of times when these guys are really popular, there's a reason why they're popular. There's something in there that makes them popular. And then they fail that first week, people get off of them, but there was a reason why they were popular. That reason didn't change. They're still back in the same spot the next week. And that's when they explode for 2% owned. And you're like, God, why didn't I stay on them this week? I was all on them last week. Well, because you bailed and you're not you don't have the mindset to ride out that storm like that. Now,
I think they're great tournament options. More on DK than FanDuel maybe. I don't necessarily want to waste one of my running back spots on one of them on FanDuel. But on DK, absolutely. By the way, I think I said David Carr, and I'm never going to get these right because it's Derek Carr that throws. I'm really just never – I've been calling Derek Carr David Carr all year, and I don't think it's going to change. All right, let's go over to wide receiver, and we've got Le'Veon Bell locked in, so I don't think we're going to do it. $10K for Antonio Brown. I mean, that's a lot of money. Chop, what are you doing with Antonio this week?
Once again, man, if you can find a way to squeeze him in your lineups, I'm going to squeeze him in because it's the same thing with Ben. Best wide receiver in football. There's no way you could look at him and not say he's the number one wide receiver on paper again this week. And yet this week, unlike the other weeks, he'll go under-owned and he'll destroy the secondary if they need him to. It's just a matter of Miami. Will they be able to keep up a little bit and make it semi-competitive? He'll crush these guys. So if you can squeeze him, and that's a huge price though. But I think in tournaments, that's why you got guys out there like Gio Bernard, Richard, and DeAndre Washington. You can have some teams where you go lower at running back to squeeze this guy on there. And like we've seen the past couple of years, you can have 2 or 3 Pittsburgh Steelers on your lineup and win tournaments with them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Steelers, that offense is so concentrated on those guys. I mean, Tony, what are you doing with Antonio Brown this week?
I mean, it's pretty simple for me. On my normal teams and all my high stuff, I don't really see how I can fit him just because I'm playing those high running backs and I'm playing Breeze. So for the most part, I'm fading him. But I do have a lot of interest in a contrarian type team where you go down at running back. Even both spots, maybe play Le'Veon Bell and 2 cheap running backs and then play Antonio with Le'Veon or something. But the only way I'm playing him is just an extreme, contrarian type team.
What do you say we go and throw AB 10% in here and maybe the lineup builder can find us a few builds that we don't hate?
Yeah.
That'll work for you guys? All right, let's do that. Some other expensive wide receivers, Chop. We got Julio. We got Odell. I like Odell this week. I obviously like A.J. Green this week. What are you doing as far as paying up for wide receiver this week? Are you doing it at all? Are you looking for cheaper guys? What's the plan?
No, I think, running back is where you want to – most weeks on DraftKings, I want to pick out my wide receivers first because that's where you're going to get your big points at. This week, I'm okay with picking out whatever running backs first, making sure I lock them up, and then I look at wide receivers. There's not as much of a selection this week as there has been in the past weeks, but If you're going after Antonio Brown, there's a pretty big drop off. Guys like Julio Jones, for me, AJ Green, I know you like him, but I'll be fading those kind of guys. Fitzgerald, whatever. If you're on Monday night slate, some of those higher price guys, I don't really like them this week just because not only the price but the matchup. I like that smaller tier a little bit after that, like the $7,000 guy like Jarvis Landry would be a guy that I love this week in this matchup against Pittsburgh. So I want to kind of stick down there 73, 7,400 and below.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry is one of my favorite plays on the week. 6,800 against the Steelers. I mean, Miami should be throwing the ball. I think we all agree that they're going to be behind in this game. Tony, I mean, a guy, he only had 3 targets last week, and that's just not going to hold. He's had 10 targets every week, I think his last 15 games or something crazy. So, I mean, for 6,800, are you going to have a lot of Jarvis Landry, Tony?
Yeah, Landry's one of my guys. He's really let me down the last 2 weeks with even the 2 weeks ago versus Cincy. He kind of laid a stinker too. His numbers ended up decent to where it didn't stick out as much, but I mean, I do like him. It's just Miami scares me a little bit. They've been so bad, and Pittsburgh's been so good that I just get worried about a blowout, although that helps him with game flow with a bunch of dump-offs and stuff. So 6,800 is too cheap for him, so I can't say he's a bad play. I do like him. I think he's more of a cash game play in my mind just because of his floor, and I don't necessarily see a ton of upside with him.
I mean, he might fall in the end zone.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad play in anything at 6,800. I do like him.
All right. How much do you want to put in, Chop?
I mean, 20 is fine for me.
All right. We'll go 20. I'm all right with that. And I'm kind of with you. I like Landry a lot. I don't necessarily want to go nuts with him because he hasn't been great, but still a good spot. You mentioned having Brandon Cooks. We're going to do something a little bit different here. We're going to build like we normally build, 50 teams. All right, let's go. But we're going to build, let's say, 20 Brandon Cooks teams and 20 Michael Thomas teams, some Willie Snead, not Colby Fleener, though. We can just get off that train, I think. So, all right, so Brandon Cooks, though, we're going to do this first. We're going to lock in Brandon Cooks, and these are going to be our Brandon Cooks, Drew Brees stack teams. We're going to do it, 20 teams like this, and we're going to build another script. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Any other receivers you want to touch on, Chop?
I mean, I guess the only one that we haven't talked about that I think I've heard a lot about this week that really is kind of jumps off the page is the Cameron Meredith kid from Chicago because he saves you a lot of salary. If he was any more higher priced, then I probably wouldn't think about it. But I think it makes sense to have him on a few teams to save you that salary, so your lineup builder is gonna get you 2 top-notch running backs in there.
What do you think of Cameron Meredith this week, Tony?
I mean, I'll take it a step further. I think he's tough to fade with the way the lineups work. I mean, we're going up at a few spots for some top guys, and he's just way too cheap. Like, I just feel like he's mispriced. And sometimes when guys are mispriced, you just have to eat the ownership and just go with it. I mean, with Kevin White out, I just can't see him not having a big floor at that price. Like, I don't see any way he doesn't get to double digits outside of an injury. So if he's got upside and a high floor, like that's just a super high fade for me, or hard fade, I should say.
Yeah, I was gonna say a high fade. I don't
a hard fade.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with like 25% Cam Meredith. Does that work for you guys?
That looks good. Looks good.
All right. I mean, down here we talked about Michael Thomas. We'll get to him later, but obviously we like Michael Thomas with Drew Brees. There's a guy down here I have a little bit of interest in that I'm going to be the only one.
Oh, don't do it.
Wait, who are you thinking of there, Chop?
Man, I hope you're not.
Not LaFell.
I hope you're not on that Tavon Austin train, man.
No, I'm not on the Tavon Austin train.
You saved yourself.
I am on the Philly Brown train.
Oh, that's even worse. Are you kidding me?
Philly Brown, baby. Let me explain it.
Let's compare those game logs next to Golden Tate and see which one is.
He had 13.3 against Atlanta.
No, just don't do it.
Okay, we have had 4 times this year where receivers, we've all said, it's a great spot against the Saints. All right. ODB underperformed. Julio underperformed. Amari Cooper underperformed. Travis Benjamin underperformed. That's because the Saints are going out of their way to take away the number one option. I'd have no interest in Kelvin Benjamin this week because I'm going to have so much.
Oh, God.
Here's the problem with him. is that I understand the Kelvin Benjamin argument, but these guys have so many other weapons. So if you take away Benjamin, he's going to try to target Olsen next. Oh, maybe you take away Olsen. Well, then you still have Ted Ginn. And, there's just a lot of depth at wide receiver for him after Kelvin Benjamin. That's what really holds this guy back. And that's why it's just a pure, like taking a.
Oh, it's just a crazy 5% play. That's it. I don't want any more.
You just said you were going to have tons and tons or something. What was your quote a minute ago?
That's tons of Philly Brown. For Philly Brown, that
is not tons of it. That's a flyer. That's not tons.
He's got to be 0.1%.
Oh, I mean, well, that's what he should be.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, I'm like 50 times over the field when I have 5%.
Honestly, man, like if I'm really want to save money at wide receiver, like you want to go down and really save money. If you're twisting my arm, which I don't even like to do this week, I'd look at a guy like Bryce Butler over Philly Brown. Not that I'm gonna play any of them anyway, but Bryce Butler or Chris Hogan, somebody like that, at least they have, in my opinion, some sort of ability to score some points this week. Boy, you mess around with Philly Brown and you're asking for a big fat 0, man.
How many times have I come to you guys with crazy hot takes? That don't involve Golden Tate.
Pretty much every show you got something cooking in your pocket.
Fleener and Tate come to mind.
Okay, Fleener's every week, and I'm just miserable. By the way, it's no coincidence that I have both those guys on my season-long teams, and I'm just like, no, they'll come back. Hold me closer, Golden Tate and Kobe Fleener. All right, so you want a little bit of Bryce Butler? You want a little 5% Bryce there, Chop?
No, I don't. But I said if you were going to Philly Brown, I said this is a guy I would rather have than over Philly Brown. At least he's going to get more targets than maybe anybody else on his team. But
you guys are reaching hard here on me.
Hey, man. By the way, I didn't get down here in this price range.
The chat is not happy with my Philly Brown talk. By the way, they are not
Philly Brown. I don't often say that. That's real bad, Philly Brown. At least play Ginn, because Ginn can at least catch a deep ball.
I gave us 5% of Ginn too.
Okay.
Oh, all right, Tony. Who else do you want to make sure we get in our lineups at wideout?
I mean, wide receivers a little tough. That's one of the reason I'm pretty high on the chalk Meredith, just because I don't love a lot of the cheaper guys, but just looking in that range. I mean, Robert Woods has got a ton of targets if you wanted a cheap guy. I just have a hard time going down to that range. Like, if I'm going to play a guy in that range, I would just rather play those Oakland running backs, to be honest, just because I feel like they got upside.
Well, we got to give us a little bit of Golden Tate, right?
Definitely Michael Thomas too. I'm super high on Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get. How much Michael Thomas did I just give? I see. I clicked the button too fast. There's Philly Brown again. How much was Michael Thomas? Where did he go? Where did you go, Michael Thomas? Did I just delete him on accident? Sorry. Oh, there he is. All right, Michael Thomas, 25% Michael Thomas.
Where's Big Sneed at? We didn't get him yet, did we?
No, I don't think so. We got to put him in though. What about Will Fuller? You on Will Fuller this week?
I'm not.
All right. What about you, Chop?
Yeah, he seems like a decent play. I mean, decent relative to his salary and everything. I think it's going to be a big DeAndre Hopkins week, but
one of these weeks too, Will Fuller's going to go off, and Siege is going to be like, "Man, I told you, Will Fuller was." After he said it every single week.
Will Fuller. He's the new Mike Evans. It's great. I do have a little bit of interest, and this is kind of crazy, in Chris Hogan.
Didn't he get hurt last week? Did I just make that up?
No, I don't think he got hurt. Not that I know of.
I felt like he got hurt.
Shaken up twice, having to be checked for concussions, but he was clearing, and then he returned to the game. I mean, look, Cincinnati's been getting beat up deep, and Chris Hogan, that's where he runs the ball. That's where he runs. I mean, I don't want a ton. I want maybe 8% Chris Hogan, but
yeah, I have no problem with any New England guys. James White, Bennett, Gronk. I mean, all of them with Brady back. I mean, Brady has 5 touchdown upside every week. So, I mean, it doesn't matter who the other team is.
All right. I'm putting in 5% Golden Tate just because that's what we have to do on this show. I feel like that's a necessity, right, Chop?
Yeah. Sounds like this is a Crane-directed show right here.
Are you still saying he's better than Marvin Jones? Is the white flag coming out yet? The old the GOAT. What's my boy's name? The GOAT.
Gary the goat.
Gary
There
the
is
goat.
my white flag. There it goes. Are you happy now? I waved the white flag. Look at Chop. He's just sitting here saying, what in the hell is going on this show?
More Golden Tate, yay.
Golden Tate is right. All right, tight end, Chop. Who do you like this week?
Oh, man, there's some good tight ends. There's two different ranges you could spend up, and you're going to grab your Greg Olson, Delaney Walker types. Personally, I kind of like that 3,500 and below range, or around that, where you can get your Zach Millers, Dennis Pittas, and those kind of guys, and load up on the rest of your team. So that's the two different options you have. So I guess right offhand, dollar for dollar, Dennis Pittas stands out to me in a great matchup. I'm thinking Steve Smith's going to be out this week. Mike Wallace is banged up. He's been missing part of practice or whatever. Pittas seems like he's going to get targeted quite a bit this week, and that's a cheap price.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about how they're changing offensive coordinators, but still Pittas Flacco's BFF. So I definitely have some interest in Pitt at 4,300. What do you think of Pitt, Tony?
Yeah, Chop's just too good. That's like my favorite play of the week, Pitt. I just feel like if Steve Smith's out, they're banged up a little bit on the offensive line, I think, even. So they're going to look to dump off a lot of quick passes to Pitt. The price is cheap. It just seems like a great play to me. I love that price. I don't really want to spend up. The only time I want to spend up is if I'm stacking that Breeze game, and then I might go to Olsen just to give me more of a game stack. But as far as optimal, I really like Pitta for that play.
And what about Vernon Davis?
Oh God!
You're giving us a workout today with some of
you're
these
incorrigible, man.
If Jordan Reed is out,
no, Vernon Davis is washed up. He's done. He's no.
All right, skills. You guys, I'll tell you, you were more disgusted with Vernon Davis than Philly Brown. So I
would much rather play Philly Brown than Vernon Davis.
Wow. Okay. All right. There. Fine. I got rid of Vernon. All right. I'm here for you guys.
I almost fell out of the chair when I seen the mouse going towards him.
All right. Any of these other guys you want to make sure we get in, or can we go ahead and spin the wheel?
I actually like a cheap guy at tight end, and I'm sure you guys will laugh at me, but it's one of my crazier plays of the week. But I like that C.J. Uzomah from Cincinnati. I just think they're going to try to take A.J. Green away. New England's got killed against the tight end all year. People might not have even noticed that, but every week they've been giving up a lot to the tight end. So I really like him for 2,500. It gives you some savings. I don't love tight end outside of Olsen and Pitta. So it's even a 2K savings on even Pitta. So I really like it for a sneaky play.
All right. What do you think of C.J. Uzomah? Chop.
Yeah, I think he's right on when he says that New England's going to make their best effort to take away A.J. Green. And so I would think somebody else is going to step up. I don't think it's a LaFell week, even though you like him. So somebody's going to step up and be there. And I think that you look at a guy like that, he has a chance, 2,500 is catch a few passes, man. That's all you got to do. And he's not going to sink your team. There's a couple guys really super low. I'm waiting on Ryan Griffith news. If he's out for Houston, I like their tight end to get in there and grab some targets. CJ Fedorowicz.
Did you practice that name?
I played college football, man.
Okay.
Fantasy football. This guy was a stud in college, and we went through the rounds on his name in college with Dan Bach. So I've had a lot of practice, but this guy could be a stud if Ryan Griffith is out. If Ryan Griffith is for sure out, I like this guy as a cheap play too. So I don't mind Tony's idea of going really super, super cheap at tight end.
Just seems like it's a really good week to go down in that range. I like the call of that guy too, just because it's just good for your roster builds. Like, we want to play the two high-priced running backs for the most part. We want to play Breeze or Cam type thing. We want to get up at receiver for at least one guy. So it just makes sense in the build to go cheap this week. And you really can't bust at 2.5. Like, the only way you bust is if he literally just donuts you. Even if he gets like 3 for 30 on DraftKings, it's not going to kill your team.
Yeah, it's 6 points and it's for 2,500, especially if it allows you to get up to some really great expensive guys.
And then what happens if he actually gets in the box or something for us? All of a sudden you're massive.
It's a free roll, bro.
Yeah, this is definitely a free roll, especially sitting with so much Drew Brees. All right, defense, special teams. Give me 2 teams, Tony, that you want in here.
I mean, I have a hard time not loading up Buffalo just with the Kaepernick news. Buffalo's been unbelievable on defense. I mean, what are they averaging? Click on them real quick.
I can do that.
I mean, they've been just so good on defense, like double digit. Like, look at that. That's just that. And then they get Kaepernick on top of that at home. Like, I have a hard time not just clicking the lock button with Buffalo. I always like locking a defense anyways because of how much variance I think there is. And just it's fun just to have one defense. If they do good, then you're pretty much locked across the board. And if you spread it out, it just feels like you're limiting your upside a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to – if I'm going to lock in other positions, I don't necessarily want to lock in defense. But, like, since I'm locking in Brees, since I'm locking in Bell, if I have that combo, I definitely don't want to lock in a third spot. I mean, that's getting a little tight for me. So let's go 25% Buffalo. Chop, who else do you like at defense?
I like to save a little money sometimes on defense in tournaments. So I start from the bottom up and see what can I get that stands out to me. This week, my cheap defense specialty. I mean, listen.
Oh God, you started laughing. This is gonna be bad.
Listen, you're pushing it. The thing is about the defense is you have to have that touchdown or multiple touchdowns to really separate yourself. Otherwise, they're all the same. Who cares about if you give up 7 points or if you give up 21? That's not a big deal. You need those touchdowns. I think the Bears have an opportunity this week to maybe be that sneaky, super cheap defense that you can load up the rest of your team with. You take the Bears and a really cheap tight end, and you've got, a lot of salary left over. The Bears have, I think they can rush the passer. They're pretty good at rushing the passer. Jacksonville, Blake Bortles can make mistakes. They get pressured a lot too. Their offensive line isn't that great in the pass, and the Bears are at home. I think the Bears play with a lead. I think there's a chance there the Bears can make a little bit of something happen. You don't need a whole lot of magic for 2,300.
Blake Bortles could make mistakes is maybe the most understated thing you've ever said. Let's go ahead and give us 25% of the Bears. We're going to let the program do the rest. Let's find some multiple lineups. It's going to generate lineups for us. We're going to have a lot of Drew Brees. We're going to have a lot of Le'Veon Bell. Let's take a look at that's right. We locked in Brandon Cooks here for 100% too, and it gave us – I'll tell you what, it did a pretty good job. If you look down here, we wanted some of these running backs. We got 32%. DeMarco, 30%.
Yeah, that looks sexy right there, man.
We got some Snead. We got some Uzama. Look at Tony. He's so happy. We even got – it even gave us some – how do you pronounce this?
Fedorowicz.
I like it.
This is the winning build right here. Matt Jones. Don't go down that far. Stay up top. I was excited.
It gets sad when we get down here.
Yeah.
Well, it had trouble giving us some of those running backs we like too, but we did get our 4% Golden Tate.
Oh. At least it saved us 1% of our equity.
It gave us 4% Philly Brown and Ted Ginn too. Let's get pumped. No, you don't want to get pumped about that?
Maybe one of them hits a home run. Maybe.
One of them's got to hit a home run, I'm telling you.
It ain't going to be Philly Brown.
Oh, it's going to be Philly Brown. You wait for 10 for 112 and 5 touchdowns.
10 for 112.
And 5 touchdowns. Boom.
Golly.
And real quick, I just want to show you what else it can do. We got to get off here in a couple seconds. If we go here, because we went to whiteout, we did 50 teams there. And if we go to, let's see, another one. Let's say we lock in – who's another wide receiver you want to lock in instead of Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea you had originally of locking him and then locking Snead and then locking Thomas on just different builds and see what it gives us.
All right, let's see what happens if we lock in Willie Snead instead. We'll go up. So we already got our 50 lineup build with Brandon Cooks locked in. We're going to build 50 more now with Snead locked in. I bet it gives us some better wide receivers here. So if we scroll down, we still got 100% Snead, Bell, and Brees, but now we got some more DeMarco. Oh, it was able to give us some Lamar Miller. I like this one a little bit more even. So we got some Lamar Miller, got some LaShawn McCoy. Still loves us some Cameron Meredith. Tough not to love that. We still sprinkled in a second, some more wide receivers from New Orleans here just because it's not like Drew Brees is just going to go to one guy. So we like Michael Thomas, still gave us some Brandon Cooks and some Jeremy Curley because, it really wants to drive us nuts.
I mean, Curley at least, catches the ball, so it's not like he's got a zero floor. I don't hate Curley.
By the way, it was able to find his 10% Antonio Brown.
I like that.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, let's see. Let's just take a look real quick. Let's see what these Brown teams look like. So we can type in Antonio Brown right here. Scroll down. Let's take a look at this first one. You got Breeze, Bell, Matt Jones. Let's get off of that one. We'll go to the Carlos Hyde one. Oh, it's going.
Double hitter, double.
I don't really want to double stack Philly Brown and Ted again. We might have to set here. This one looks a little bit better. We got Breeze, Le'Veon Bell, Lamar Miller, Willie Snead, and Michael Thomas, Philly Brown, C.J. Uzoma, T.Y. Hilton, and the Bears defense. That is a little bit – I mean, that's a little more interesting to me.
Yeah, I like that for a tournament build. That's an interesting tournament build.
If we go down here, I don't like these tight ends or Jacob Tammy, but we got Chris Hogan, Antonio Brown, Willie Snead, James White. You like James White a little bit, Chop, right?
Yeah, White. Anytime Brady's under center – he could very easily be targeting the running back a ton, and this is maybe a tougher matchup for Blunt. So, yeah, I like James White in tournaments.
All right. Let's look at this last one, too. It gives some Niles Paul here. If you don't like if they're gonna throw to the tight end and we don't like Vernon Davis, put Niles Paul up for you, Chop.
Listen, that's a lot better than Vernon Davis. At least that guy's a little bit athletic.
Well, it's great, too, because we got some of those big hitters in there we like. We got Bell, we got Lamar Miller, Snead, Antonio Brown, Devontae Adams. But it's still Devontae Adams. I mean, we all know that Devontae Adams sometime this year is going to have a week where he goes for 100 yards, and everybody's going to say, oh, I knew I should have played Devontae Adams. That's every single week with the guy. But, yeah, that's going to do it, guys.
I got one other cheap tight end, too, just to throw out there that I just noticed that if Josh Hill somehow plays this week for New Orleans, he's only 2,500, just like our cheap range that we had. I know he's really risky with Fleener ahead of him, but 2,500 to get an option in that game. Breeze has always had a pretty good relationship with Hill, so he's interesting for 2,500.
I'm going to be on Team Kobe still, but that's going to do it for us, guys. It has been a lot of fun. And, guys, I only want 5% Philly Brown. You can live with that, right? At least give me 5% Philly Brown.
4%.
4% fine. Chop, you can leave me at 4?
Let's go 3.5.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. For Tony, for Chop, for Philly Brown, I'm Eric. See you guys later. Peace.